some
Now being recorded.
just turn this off.
This call is now being transcribed.
Okay, so we will have a few invocation mantras, and I'll just project them for those who are not familiar. A second. Okay, so some of these mantras we've chant in the class. So this class, the Bhasya class, we will chant the Sahana Vavatu, and then we will chant these ones, 3 mantras here. So the first mantra we can chant together, and after that, I will lead the next few mantras. Okay. All right, let us begin. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana So this you can repeat after me. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So this we can do together. Om Purnamada So we'll just take a few minutes now and we will do what is called as a mananam. And so here, if you like, you can either close your eyes, or if you want to keep it open, that's fine. But you can just follow the guided contemplation. So we start with just taking a couple of deep breaths and just relaxing the body, letting go and just resting. Just feel the relaxation. And for just a few seconds, you can just watch the breath. As the breath comes in, if you wish, you can chant so or hum. And as the breath goes out, you can chant, hum, or so, whichever practice you're familiar with. Then as the mind slowly stabilizes, try to get to that sense of that seer, that witness, that awareness which is aware of the breathing and which is aware of the voice, the sound you're hearing, and all the other experiences that's brought to you through the senses and the mind. Just try to become aware, not of the objects itself, but of that awareness. That awareness which is aware of all the activities, the vyapara, the transaction that happens between the mind and the outside world through the medium of senses. And as we do that, we find that naturally the mind slowly withdraws itself back into that awareness. Into this seer, this self or Atma. And as we try to abide in this awareness, we can also kind of notice that this awareness is not something that is created. It is not something that comes into being in the morning and goes out in the evening, but it's something that's always there. Nor is it something that can be transformed into something else, nor is it something that is attained. Because that what is already you, that which is already the self, doesn't need to be attained. It is ever attained. Praptyasya prapti. Most importantly, this thing is not purified as well. It is not attained through some purification process. Even in the activities of the day, we never lose that sense of awareness of I, that self. Although that I, that self, gets mixed up with that activities and the states of the mind, but it always remains as it is in its pure form. So we bring our attention to that awareness. That is the contemplation process. And as we go through our class, every now and then we can try to bring our awareness back, our attention back to this awareness, and try to remain somewhat centered in there. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Narayana. So now today we are starting the Bhasya classes from Shankaracharya. And these classes, these Bhashya classes are a means and opportunity for us to really understand the Upanishad better. And to some extent, we also here want to not just understand the mantras as in their import, but also the traditional style through which it was taught. So the traditional way in how these were taught was through the means of the Bhashya of Shankaracharya. So the Upanishads, as we all know, was there for a long time. As I mentioned to you, it was not achieved through the means of a human intellect, right? A Paurushaya. So the Upanishads was there all the time, right from the dawn of the creation, right from the moment that Brahma comes in. The Upanishad is there. So the this Upanishad, which was there all the time, was kind of resurrected or was made available to us through the means of the Bhashyas, which Shankaracharya wrote on them. So through them, we are now able to appreciate them. So the ideal way and the traditional way to understand the Upanishad is when we are able to study it along with the Bhashya. Okay. So I'm assuming all of you have the Bhashya, which was given to things. So part of it I will refer there, and part of it what I'm going to do is I'm also going to read out the Sanskrit text. So we will do it part by part. Those who have attended my other sessions. So I'll try to do it like a couple of lines so that way we can flow together in that. So now this is called as Avatarika. So before the actual Bhashya starts, before the mantra starts, there is an introduction that is given by Shankaracharya. And so, what is this introduction? This introduction here, he doesn't focus too much on the what is Vedas and all that. Here, he's focusing more. I mean, he's not focusing directly on the Upanishads itself, but he's trying to focus on the importance of this Jnana Kanda, as we call, where the Upanishads is part of this Jnana Kanda, as we know. So this portion of Jnana Kanda is what he's going to tell us about. Okay, so let us start with. I'm going to read out a part of that Sanskrit version, and I will try to explain that, and then later we will read that whole Bhashya. Maybe one of you can read the Bhashya at that point. Okay, so the first Avatarika, meaning that introduction, that to what we sometimes call as the prelude, right, or the as you go into that Bhashya, into the Upanishad. Okay, so he says that Ishavasyam ityadayo mantraha karma swaviniyuktaha. So the first right off at the beginning, he says this Ishavasya Upanishad, which we are going to study, he says this is not to be used for karma kanda, meaning this is not to be used in the part of karma section of the Vedas. It is to be used for the Jnana section of the Veda. Jnana is a knowledge. This is not to be used in terms of yajna, homa, dana, tapa, and upasana. All this, like yajna is sacrifices, dana is giving charity, or like other practices or rituals we are doing. Like, a lot of everything in India, in Indian traditional thing has rituals, right? Right from the moment the child is born to that moment the child becomes an adult, to that marriage and to the death, all of them there is rituals. So that is the mantra portion of Vedas. And then there is what is called as the Brahmana portion of Vedas. Of course, there are other portions also, sometimes different categories, but broadly two categories: Mantra Bhaga, Brahmana Bhaga. Mantra portion and the Brahmana portion. Mantra portion primarily deals with all these rituals and practices, and the Brahmana portion deals with that, with knowledge, wisdom, and also being able to abide and meditate in that on that knowledge. So that is the first line, very first line. He introduces that distinction and clarifies that. So then next he says, Tesham akarma sheshasyatmano yathatmya prakashakatvat Why? Because this is just revealing this part of the Upanishad which we are going to study. It is not going to tell you to do this. It is not going to tell you if you do this, you will attain that. Huh? Like, there is this Ashwamedha Yaga Karma, Agnihotra Karma, and all that in traditional India, it was there. Or in today's time, somebody might tell us, you do 1,000 japas, then you can materialize this thing, that sankalpa you have. You keep something in mind and you do 1,000 japas, it will become real. Or you do something, these yajnas, and then you will have things there are also, you do these yajnas, danas, you will have a children. So all that is what it is telling you, if you do this, you get that. But here it is not that. He's saying because they reveal the true nature of what is that self. huh? Yathatmya, meaning it is as it is revealed. Meaning it is not like you do this and it is attained. It is as it is revealed. That is why this is taken as Upanishad. Then he goes on to clarify Yatatmyam cha atmanah shuddhatva apapa viddhatva ekatva nityatva ashariratva sarvagatattvadi vakshyamana tacha karma viruddhatyeteti yukta evesham karma swavinyogaha. So this why is this thing? He says this is opposed to karma, this aspect of revealing thing as it is, revealing yourself as you are without modifying anything, is opposed to action, karma. Why is it opposed to action and karma? He says because that true nature of that Atma it is pure. It is pure. It is free from any papa, many sins, any bad things you have done. By consciously or unconsciously, you have harmed somebody, or you have unconsciously while walking, you have killed so many ants or something. So should get papa in some way. You should get some bad merit, but that soul is untainted with that. And ekatva, it is that oneness. That atma is not like I have one atma, you have one atma, and all these other people, all of us here are different atma. It is oneness, and it is nitya, it is eternal, it is permanent, and it is ashariratva, it is not limited to body. So this is a famous distinction of when we come to understand consciousness. Consciousness is not in the body. So, but it's actually the other way around. The body is in the consciousness, but consciousness is not in the body, because the oneness of that consciousness, and it is not physical entity. And sarvagata, it is omniscient, omnipresent. So that part is what this Upanishad is going to talk about. This Upanishad is not going to tell you do this, do that. Although you will see some parts, karma will also be talked about in this Upanishad. But he says the main aspect, the main teaching of this Upanishad is not that you do actions. And in this action, we have to include also all the practices. So we will come to that. How, where does our other practices like japa, homa, puja, how does that connect to this? And does it connect at all? So that part. Now, this, in order to explain this, he continues and he says that nor is it it is a something like a something which can be created, like as I led in the Mananam. Nor is the Atma something that can be created, nor can it be transformed, nor can it be purified, nor can it be attained. So nahi evam lakshanam atmano yatatmya upapadyam vikaryam apyam samskaryam kartru proktru rupava yena karma sheshata syat. So this is not a doer or a enjoyer. Kartrutva bhoktrutva. Kartrutva means something you do, and then you do something you have to enjoy. You have to get the results of that. You work for 1 month, you get a salary, right? Or you prepare a lot of food, you put the dough, you put it in the oven, and then the next day you get whatever the bread, or the next whatever time you get to enjoy whatever you have done. So the Atma is not, it is not even the doer, nor it is the enjoyer. So that part he explains. Now, in order to understand this, I wanted to just maybe write something, and write meaning I wanted to show you the how to understand this. Okay, so here you can see. Okay, so this portion here. So let us just analyze a little bit. There is karma and the jnana. What is the difference? Everybody, I hope, can see this. See here. So there's karma and there is jnana. Two portions. Okay. So what is the fundamental difference? In literal translation, if you take karma, we can take it as action. Things we do. The actions are also of different kinds. As a human being, what are the three kinds of actions, three ways we can act? Anybody? I would have shared this probably in other classes.
Kaya, Vacha, Manasa.
Yes, yeah, very good. Kaya meaning physical action. We can act physically, right? I can, as I was giving the example, I prepared the dough. So that is a physical action. Vacha means verbal action. I'm talking now, I'm teaching. So this is a verbal action. Then manasa meaning mental action. Every action in a way starts from in the mind, right? There's a thought that comes, and then I want to go somewhere. I have a thought, I will go here to Ganga. So that thought has come. Now what? I will do. I will follow it up by physical action. So all these actions are what is called as karma or kriya. Okay. Now the other one is jnana. So what Shankaracharya says is these two things, karma and jnana, they are opposite to each other. Meaning they are viruddhatvat. They are contrary to each other. Now, why is this contrary? So first, why are we trying to understand this is the karma comes in what is called in Upanishad as the mantra bhaga. Okay. Mantra portion. And this comes in what is called as the Brahmana portion. Okay. And now here there is in the darshanas, in Indian darshanas, there are 6 darshanas. Okay. Anybody remembers the 6 darshanas of India? The traditional darshan. Yeah. See.
Vedanta, Charuvaka. No, I don't remember all of them, Guruji.
Okay. Yeah, Yuri.
Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Vedanta.
One is missing.
One. Sankhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and Vedanta.
Okay, correct. Yeah. Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Yoga. So these are all two true pairs. You can take Nyaya, Vaisheshika. They are the logic-based darshanas, meaning philosophies. And then there is Sankhya and Yoga. So these Sankhya is the oldest darshana. Then Yoga is has come from there, more or less, or is rather has derived its philosophy from Sankhya. So as Buddhism, for example. So then there is but Buddhism and Jainism and Charvaka. So Charvaka, which you mentioned, Jaya, it is not in the traditional Astika darshan. It is in the Nastika darshan. Okay, yeah. So Charvaka, Buddhism, Jainism, they're in the Nastika darshans. And then the Vedanta part, that Mimamsa part, there are 2. So these are what is called as a Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa means previous, and Uttara meaning latter. Huh? So the Purva Mimamsas, what they did is they focused only on karma kandas. So this was the predominant Indian thing that was prevailing at the time of Shankaracharya. Huh? So they are very similar in their things. They both are very strict followers of Vedas. But the karma kanda portion is what they consider as important, like Jaimini. Yeah? Jaimini is the rishi who propounded that. He considered that is important, and he said Upanishads are not important. So it is not important to go in that. But then Shankaracharya get the true reality. Until you understand and realize the Upanishad, you will not get moksha. You will not be free. You will not be free from the bondage of this life. So that is why, later it came. So this portion, what we are now talking, jnana. So this is the topic. Jnana is the focus of Vedanta, or what we call as a Uttara Mimamsa, latter Mimamsa. Karma action is the thing of that. So what does it have? It has karma kanda, upasanas, yajna, dana, tapa, all that I told, right? That is all part of karma kanda. And here in this one, what do we have? We have the Upanishads. So the Upanishads is part of the Brahmana portion. So what is this of? What is this doing? This is doing the purification of the mind and intellect. So there is a correlation. What is the correlation? The correlation which later we will come. In fact, Nikhilananda's notes, you will see this later, one of the footnotes, which is from the acharyas, traditional acharyas. So we do want to say that these are different so that we appreciate this, but yet at the same time, many times, like when we say that karma kanda, what is this offering? It is offering us that ability of purification of mind and intellect, without which we are not able to abide in the knowledge of self. So like many times, when people, when I talk to people and all that, they say that, yeah, I do believe in Vedanta, so then I shouldn't do anything. So that is how the sannyasis are trained, like you should not earn money, you should not do, you shouldn't do work, you shouldn't be involved in a lot of external activities. Why? Because you have to at the most abide in self. But then, as Shankaracharya himself, he went around teaching everywhere, right? He himself wrote a lot of texts and all that. So it is not that you don't do anything literally. It is just that you have to act from that sense of not wanting to attain all these things in this life. You are focused on attaining that pure self. So the means for this, how do you get to that? That is why, all the other things have come, like karma yoga and all that. You learn to act selflessly and all that. See, as long we cannot say that, I'll just abide in that self until we have that complete purity of mind. And like, for example, if you're sitting and then you're saying, I have to get food, or I have to pay my rent, I'm worried about taking care of my kids and all that, then you have to do some karma. Some karma first try to do in a sense of seva for yourself, your family, and more importantly for the tradition, the teachers or whatever. And then the purification is happening. That purification will enable us to abide in the knowledge of self. Okay, so now we come to one important point he is mentioning. What is it that he is saying that why don't we do this? So he says that first point here, he's saying that it is the Atma is pure. So what all are we told when we come to understand the jnana is that Atma is Shuddha. So Shuddha here, see, it is that purity. So this purity is mentioned to the Upanishads. And it is apapa, it is sinless. So this is also mentioned through the Upanishads. Because if a traditional religion tells that you have done a lot of bad things because of which you're having bad karma. So don't do bad things. do only good things, right? This is the, but Upanishad is not telling you do this, do that, because it is not interested in teaching dharma. It is interested in teaching moksha. So it is this we have already gone through. So it is not going to tell you this is good and this is bad. That is the role of religions. That meaning that karma kanda and all that. And then the ekatva, that oneness. Okay, the oneness also. Sorry. The oneness is also being told to us. And then that permanence, meaning nityatvat. Okay. And a lot of other things also he has mentioned. So all this comes under Jnana Kanda here. Now he says that there are some things which is opposite. What is that opposite? Things which where we say something is created. So if it is created, then will we learn about this through Upanishads or through Karma Kanda? For example, he's talking about create something that is created, something that is transformed, something that is purified, and something that is attained. All this comes under which category?
Karma Kanda.
Yeah, it comes under Karma Kanda. So created, transformed, purified. Okay, so all this now comes under for us in Karma Kanda. So this is the role of Karma Kanda, something that is created, meaning you have to create a good mental state. Otherwise, you will not be able to, sit through the class. You have to have concentration. You have to transform the mind. If the mind is too restless, you have to make it peaceful. You have to purify. Purify meaning like if you are having lot of bad thoughts, negative thoughts, then you have to have pure thoughts so that you can study, meditate, and all that, right? So all this is sahakari, meaning it is complementary, but it is not the actual nature of knowledge itself. These are all kind of qualifications. So the chitta shuddhi is necessary so we can abide in the knowledge of self. Okay. All right. So this is the main point. Now let us continue here. Now he says one more point. Sarvasam Upanishadam Atma Yathatmya Nirupana Neva Upakshayat. Gitana Moksha Dharmanam Cha Evam Paratvat. Now all the Upanishads is pointing to this. Pointing to what? It is pointing to how that self is not attained, that self is not created, and to that it is all along it is pure. It doesn't have the doer and enjoyer. So that notion, that aspect is what the all the Upanishads are determining. And there is one more thing in this. I won't be able to go in this class. How do the Upanishads do it? Like this scripture, how is it? How do we know it is pointing to this? So there is something called a Shadlinga, 6 pointers. So you have to look at a text and determine, is this text pointing about Atma or it is talking about something else? So these 6 pointers, I will kind of go into it a little detail in some other class, but basically I'll just mention their names. They're called as Upakrama, Upasamhara, meaning that the beginning and end, they have to be clear. Like in this one, Ishavasya idam sarvam. It is in the first line only it is saying, everything here is that Isha, that Atma, that Brahman. And then there is Abhyasa, practice, then Apurvatva. It has to be something which is not commonly known through my eyes or through other sources. Phalam, it has to give you that result, Arthavada, and then it has to be comparing or giving you that the clarity. Then the Upapatti, that examples, logic, analysis has to be there. So that is how we determine this is Upanishad and this is not a Karma Kanda. That is the main point here. So then the next portion here, he talks about how the what is the karma, what is the qualification of some who is interested in karma? They are the people who are interested in getting some drishtapala, meaning something I can attain in this life, this world. Like as I told that example, I work and I get salary. That is a clear karma result I see in this world. But the Purva Mimamsas, they knew of that unseen results also. Like results I cannot tangibly see right now, or I get it in a different life, or this life only, but not immediately seen, So that, how do I get that result? For that, I have to do the other karmas, and I have faith in the Vedas. Then I do that. So that is, for that you need qualification. What are that? Like as he mentions, you should not be one-eyed, meaning you cannot be blind or half blind. You cannot be humpbacked. Meaning you should have a straight back. Meaning your spine, you should be able to sit right and do the yajna. So, so all that different things he has given there. Okay, and then the other part he mentions here, where is he says, so this is karma adhikari, the one who is adhikar. Then he comes about the anubandha chatushtaya. What are the things this book or this text, like every book you pick up, right? They have some few things. What are they? He says, Tasmadete mantra atmano yatatmya prakashanenatma vishayam swabhavika ajnanam nivartayantaha shoka mohadi samsara dharma vichitta sadhana atmaikatvadi vijnanam utpadayantaha. So he says that the Upanishads, what they are doing is that it is helping us to uproot that the sorrows, that ignorance, that because I'm in a state of ignorance, I need that knowledge, and that knowledge will free me from that sorrows of the world. Atyantika dukkha nivritti. So this world, this bondage, that bondage, it will free us. And how does it free us? It through this fourfold means. What are the fourfold means? He says, Ityevam muktadhikarya videya sambandha prayojanam mantrat sankshepato vyakyasyamaha. So what are these four things? These four things, wait, I might have something here. These four things are, these are the four things. So first is what is called as adhikaratva. So the adhikaratva meaning we should be qualified to study this. So the first thing is the student or those of us who are studying Upanishads, we have to be qualified. So we may feel that, okay, does it mean that if I'm not qualified, I cannot study? No, the idea is that you have to be aware of that qualification and you have to continue with attaining that qualifications. Adhikari, that who is qualified. So sometimes, we say if, for example, if you want to do some yogic practices or certain kind of a spiritual practices, it is not given to anyone publicly. Why? Because they say that generally, like these practices, that person should have that receptivity, then they are qualified to attain that. So they have to practice, they have to serve and do and all that, and then they become qualified to get that. That is the yoga adhikari. But for jnana, there is not like that. For jnana, there is, how do you get that adhikaratva? You first hear and then you understand and then you start working on that adhikaratva. But two essential adhikaratva is there. What is that? Is one of them is what we call as chitta shuddhi, that purification of mind. Okay, one of that is a purification of the mind. Chitta. Then the other thing is chitta ekagrata. Ekagrata meaning focus, concentration. See, if we don't have some degree of concentration, we cannot do shravanam. Shravanam means what you all are doing now. You will not be able to listen because the mind is too restless. So there had to be some concentration, some ability to focus the mind. So this adhikaratva, that is the first thing. And there is also the other ways, that is sometimes Shankaracharya goes deeper into it. He says the real Vedanta Adhikaratva is somebody who has sadhana chatushtaya. Another four things he talks about. So I think I've talked about it before, but does anybody remember quickly what are the sadhana chatushtaya? Four things. Yes. Yes, Father Kashin.
Viveka, Vairagya, the six treasures, and Mumukshutva.
Correct, very good. Yeah. Viveka, Vairagya, and the Shat Sampatti, it is called, the six treasures, meaning the six qualification, which goes on further to add. And then there is the Mumukshutva. So these are the four things. Okay. All right. The second one is second thing, Anubandha Chatushtaya. What is this topic of the scripture? What are we? If we don't know what we are studying, then we will not know. We will not be interested, right? So every book you take, they will tell you what this book is about. Similarly, what is the topic of Upanishads? So Shankaracharya puts it very simply, very straightforward, and of course, different later acharyas talk in a different way, but Shankaracharya calls it like Jiva Brahma Ekatva. There is Jiva, you, and Brahma. Brahma means that supreme, that one consciousness. That Aikya meaning that oneness. Jiva Brahma Aikya. So that, he says, is the main goal of Upanishads. Or we can say like realizing my true nature, that is the main topic of Upanishads. Now, okay, I learned all this, but what is the use? Like you might say, I would rather pick up a book which tells me, how to make French or toast or idlis or something. That's very clear, right? But this book, Prayojana, what is the point? I study all the scriptures. What do I get out of it? The purpose of Upanishad. So this also here Shankaracharya clears very clearly. The prayojana of this is twofold. One, what is called as the cessation of suffering. Okay, all suffering, cessation of all suffering, which in Sanskrit we call it as Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti. So this word, if you all can remember, Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti, cessation of that iota of sorrow, the possibility of sorrow, meaning that what Buddha put it as nirvana. He said nirvana is a complete cessation. Nirvana is actually not a word that Buddha created. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Nirvanam and all that we have heard, right? So that cessation, Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti. I'll try to write it in Atyantika. You can look up actually online, Nivritti. So this is the important thing. Then there is another one also that Shankaracharya talks about, and that is Paramananda Prapti. Paramananda. So two things. First is Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti, and this is not like one, you get this and then you have to work for the second one. It is automatic. You get one, you get the other. It is like two sides of the same coin, you can say. When all the suffering ends, then you attain that unchanging, eternal, supreme bliss or joy. Having that is when we get Purnatva, that completeness. Only when we attain that. Every other joy, in fact, this is where Shankaracharya says, even that normal joy we get of sleep and samadhi and all that is also not that Paramananda. Of course, that there is also discussion on that, but the Paramananda he's talking about is that highest joy where you're established in that complete, that we can say it's some kind of a nirvikalpa samadhi state also. Okay, then the relationship of all this. This is called a sambandha. Sorry, the Sanskrit word is missing here. Okay, so the if let's say, for example, I'm a qualified student. So I, as a qualified student, will now engage in that study to understand the topic of the Upanishad, which is Vishaya, and I will attain the result of Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti, this relation. So this is a fourfold connection, fourfold connection that is being described here in this Upanishad. Let us see anything else I missed out in the Bhashya. So this much here. So this is the introduction to that Upanishad, here the Bhashya. So this part, so far, what we have looked at is we haven't gone into the mantras yet. The actual mantra, this is the beginning part. Shankaracharya qualifies to tell us, like, number one, that what is the difference between karma and jnana. That part is very clearly says, explaining. And he goes on to tell us this Upanishad forms that jnana portion, and that is why we are interested, he says. We want that. And why are we interested? Because we want to this fourfold things in this. I have that qualification, I have done karma in my life, and now I want to attain that freedom, complete freedom, that supreme joy. And so sometimes what happens, it is that we may feel that, okay, I'm not yet ready. So then, even then, mere understanding, listening will leave that impression of giving us that clarity of what we should seek after. So that is why he's putting the fourfold connections here. Okay, so maybe the introduction part, if somebody wants to read from the Bhashya, we could read maybe Nikhilananda's only. If anybody wants to read that section of introduction of that Bhashya.
I have it, Swamiji.
Which one, Jagdish, you have?
Nikhilananda.
Then yeah, you please read that introduction part.
Okay. The Isha Upanishad forms the 14th chapter of the Vajasaneya Samhita of the Shukla Yajurveda.
No, not that. Shankaracharya. This is the mantras beginning with Ishavasyam. This.
Shall I go to the second paragraph? Or I'll continue.
No, wait, Jagdish. This is which book you have?
I have the Upanishads, the one volume abridgment translated and edited by Swami Nikhilananda.
Okay, so what is the second para you have?
I will read.
He says page 197 you have.
87 is my book. The book contains many obscure passages which are explained differently by different commentators to suit to their particular theories of system.
No, Jagdish, please stop. Not that. So because that will take a long time.
According to Shankaracharya.
No, Jagdish, I'll tell you later. We will leave it. Maybe somebody else who has that document I sent today. Can you read it? Yes, please, Father Kashyap. Yeah, you can read it.
The mantras beginning with Ishavasya in the Upanishad are not to be used for ritualistic action because they reveal the true nature of Atman, which cannot be attained as a result of any action. It will be presently said that Atman in its real nature is pure, sinless, non-dual, eternal, incorporeal, and omnipresent, and therefore the knowledge of it is in conflict with work. Therefore, it is right to say that these mantras of the Ishopanishad are not to be used in ritualistic action. Furthermore, Atman, as described above, cannot be connected with an action because it is not something that is attained, created, or produced through the process of purification or transformation, and also because it is not of the nature of a doer or an enjoyer. The sole purpose of all the Upanishads is to determine the true nature of Atman. The Bhagavad Gita and other treatises dealing with man's liberation have the same end in view. Action has been prescribed in the scriptures to suit the understanding of worldly people who associate with Atman such characteristics as multiplicity, agency, enjoyment, impurity, sinfulness, and so on. According to those competent to determine who should perform work and who should not, he who seeks the result of action, a result visible on earth, such as the glories of a Brahmin's life, or a result not so visible, such as enjoyment in heaven, and who says to himself, I am twice born and free from such defects as blindness or a hunchback, which disqualify one for sacrificial work, is entitled to perform work. Therefore, the mantras of the Upanishad reveal the true nature of Atman and thereby destroy the natural ignorance regarding it. Further, they produce in us the knowledge of the oneness of Atman, by means of which we can uproot grief, delusion, and other characteristics of samsara. One who is eager to rid himself of the suffering and delusion of samsara created by ignorance and attain supreme bliss is entitled to read this Upanishad. The true nature of Atman is its subject matter. The relationship between the treatise and the subject matter is that the former establishes the latter. The purpose served by the scripture is that it enables one to attain the knowledge of the identity of Atman and Brahman, and thereby destroys grief and delusion, which are the result of ignorance. We shall now briefly explain the mantras.
Yeah, very good. So Jagdish, you note this, so that way you see where we have started, you can look in your book. So basically, this is the introduction part. This is where we are looking at. So now a couple of points here that as you can all look at that notes, because he has mentioned a couple of footnotes, and they are again some of them are from what we call as Anand Giriji Tika. Anand Giriji is in the Acharya Sampradaya, Sometimes what happens is we are not able to absorb directly what Shankaracharya teaches. So someone from the tradition, they give us that thing. And most of the footnotes here are from him, but some Nikhilanandji has also done on his own. So if you look at that one of the parts, that part, footnote 3, he mentions there that 4 things which action can create, which is Utpadya, Samskarya. Actually, there is a little mistake there in that book where that Samskarya is not transformation. Vikarya is transformation, and that purification is Samskarya. So those who are wanting to look at that book, you can just there is a that correction you can do. So that 4 things, he says, he explains that all these are precluded in Atman because as the innermost self, it is eternal, unchanging, and pure. And then he goes on to say this is what many texts talk about, and he talks about how the nature of Atman is mentioned in Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and he talks about other treatises such as here he gives an example from Mahabharata, one of the section in Mahabharata called Shanti Parva. From there he has taken that quote, which talks all about moksha. It is called as moksha dharma. And also, actually, there's one more mistake also in Nikhilananda's book, that the Bhagavad Gita quote is not 27, it is 1328. So those who are referring, you can, if you want to know. So those are the points that he has mentioned there. So those are, footnotes, sometimes there will be mistakes there. So he has, you can look, and then the another point, where he has also clarified that 7th one is a very good thing, where he explains that that an explanation is necessary regarding the relationship between action and knowledge. And then he goes on to there give an example that that all the saints, they've all acted, they've done a lot of action, but their action has been free from that notion of I-ness. So it has been in that selfless kind of action which they have done. So that is one of the aspect how the actions help in the process of purification of the intellect and make us qualified to gain that knowledge. So this is why, like we say that when we have that purification, when we have done all those practices, then that knowledge is instantaneous, like it happened for Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi, and all that, it like instantaneous, because that high degree of purification is there. So those are how action and knowledge, the connection, that commentary, that footnote is very good. Some of it is from Anand Giriji's and some he has elaborated also, which is very good. Okay, hi, any questions people have? I went a little over, but we can take over a couple of few minutes extra, and anybody has any questions, comments? Yes, Father Kashin, yes, please.
Swami, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, yes. Yeah.
Okay, I just have a question on terminology. So we have these two portions of the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda. Is Karma Kanda synonymous with the mantra portion and Jnana Kanda synonymous with the Brahmana portion? Are those two different ways of saying the same thing, or is there a distinction there?
No, there is a distinction that mantra portion is primarily for Karma Kanda. But here Shankaracharya is emphasizing in the mantra portion, this Jnana Kanda has come. So it is not like a set rule that all mantra portions are Karma Kanda. But generally people think of it this way. So actually the mantra, the only Isha Upanishad has come in the, I will double check on that, but if I'm right, Isha Upanishad is the only Upanishad which is in the mantra bhaga.
Okay.
So most of them, some come in what is called as the Aranyaka. The Aranyak. So there is another way of dividing the Vedas. The other one is called as there is the mantra and the Aranyaka and the Brahmana and Samhita. That's another way of categorizing also. So, but broad classifications are mantra and Brahmana. Yeah. So this is why this Upanishad is very famous, because they say that I heard somebody say that some people who don't accept the Upanishad accept Ishavasya Upanishad because it comes in the mantra bhaga. Any other questions, comments? So the karma also, from the Vedic point, karmas are of different kinds. Like if nobody asks question, I'll ask a question. There are different kinds of karma. When we didn't go through it, what are the different? Of course, how we act is different, but according to Vedic, there are different karmas. What are the different karmas according to Vedic?
Prarabdha karma,
Prarabdha, Agami, and
Agami.
No. That is how the karma has manifested as karma as result. But actions from a Vedic point, what are the different actions we do?
Nishkama karma.
No, that is from Gita. From Vedic point, there are 5 kinds of karma.
Agami.
Okay, I'll tell the first one. It is Nitya karma.
Nitya Naimittika.
Nitya Naimittika.
Nishiddha karma.
Nishiddha. Then the karma we do most of the time is what?
For our elders.
Shamlaji?
Naimittika karma.
That we finished. Okay, we'll go through next. We'll go through next class. It is a Nitya, Naimittika, Kamya, Nishedha. Those are the 4 ones. Nitya karma is daily activities. Naimittika is occasional duties. Kamya karma, desire-driven activities, desire-driven actions. Nishiddha, that we shouldn't be doing, but we do. Like a lot of times karmas which we shouldn't be doing, actions which we know are not good for us, and the Veda also tells us it is not good, right? But we do, and once we do that, we have to do prayaschita, repentance. So these are the 5 different actions. Okay. Any other questions, points? Okay. Everybody following? Everybody so far following the thing? Okay. So we can, any points, anything, you can put it in the group also, any questions, comments people have. And I think we may not go through every Bhashya in detail. We will see which Bhashyas are, because sometimes the mantra covers some of it. But if some places Shankaracharya's Bhashya is important, so then we will look at it. So this mantra thing I wanted to also cover a little bit, but this took so much time. I could not cover that other one. So next class we will do. Okay. Namaste. We'll just say a closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashyate.
Om
Om
Shanti
Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. Thank you. Om Namo Narayanaya.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Namaste.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna Guruji.